Hi, I'm Perry, and this is my weekly video. Today, I'm going to talk to you about patterns and emotional addiction. So, first of all, I want you to put aside everything you think you know about addiction. Every, those people belief, or I don't have any problems with substances belief, or I am not an addict belief. I want you to just put all of that aside while I take you through what I want to talk to you about today. So, first of all, I am not a doctor. I am not a psychologist, but I am a coach. And I am a student of addiction from the perspective of emotional addiction, both personally and through the people that I work with. And in the course that I developed, Relationship Detox, which works with a lot of patterns that are addictive in nature as it relates to relationship. So the first thing, I don't have the link to the study, but I believe it was, it's something that Gabor Mate, and you can look him up. Gabor Mate has talked a lot about addiction and the roots of addiction in childhood, etc. And he goes back way beyond what people think of, which is like just getting off a substance, right? So like when you hear about addiction in our society, a lot of times what you're hearing about is this person is addicted to this substance, that it's a disease, it's a physical problem, and that, we need to get this person off this substance. And so what I would argue is that is one level of addiction, and it's substance addiction. And the thing underneath the substance addiction has nothing to do with the substance, and it's not a disease. It's I believe that it's generally rooted in some kind of emotional trauma. And the reason that I say that is because emotions have show up in the same place in our brain as does what a drug or a substance would do for your brain, right? And we already know that, and I'm sorry I don't have links and studies and things. You're gonna have to just Google and do your own references on like what I'm talking about. But we know, for instance, that technology lights up those same parts of our brain that drugs do, right? It has the same effect of like dopamine, of that hit, of that thing that has a physical piece to it, but it's also it has the physical chemical response in our brain, and there are emotions attached to it usually, right? Like winning, like, ooh, like we like that feeling. And so my theory is that we just get addicted to sensations, and they could be by substance, they could be by arguing with someone, they could be by constantly feeling victimized, they could, it goes from everything from games to sex to food to shame to drama, right? So, and the way that I see this show up for people where they have a really hard time with this is like when it's a substance, it's really, I'm not going to say it's easy because substance abuse is terrible and it can be torturous and you can die from it. So I'm not dismissing substance abuse, but at least when you're dealing with substance abuse, you know what the problem is, right? Like there is a substance that you need to stop using. And it's very, very clear whether or not you are sober or not, based on whether or not you are using that substance, okay? When you start getting into emotional sobriety in terms of, am I acting in a way, am I using the sensations in the world? Am I creating situations in my relationships, in my world? And by the way, this is not just romantic relationships. If you see a particular thing happen to you at work all the time, it's that too. So it's a combination of us replaying old beliefs that we have that usually stem from some period of childhood. So For instance, like let's say you have a fear of being abandoned, and there's a feeling in your body that happens, like it's like a panic, right? Like it's got that like stomach drop, and it's your body tightens, and like you get like grabby, right? Like it's got this sort of hit to it, like a drug. And so if you have, let's say, a fear of that, a lot of times, and then you have a belief around it, what will happen is you will continue to create situations in your life where you will experience that. I know it's really weird. We're human and we do these really strange things. But here's the thing. I believe that it's because what we're really addicted to is the feeling of abandonment. We are afraid of it, and yet we are totally addicted to the feeling of it. So I'm just gonna let that sink in for a second, because the feeling, that really intense, like, right? That is the thing. That is the sensation in your body that you're addicted to. So why am I talking about this? Okay, I'm talking about this because basically anytime you're pulling for a sensation in your life, like where you're trying to get something to feel a certain way, there's, to me, from my own practice, like that is addictive territory for me. Meaning my practice, my spiritual practice, is how can I show up to everything and be fully connected without avoiding it, okay, because addiction is avoidance as well. How can I avoid it? How can I show up without avoiding it? And how can I show up without pulling on it? So let me try and give you an example. Most of the time, our relationship patterns with people. So one of the reasons I teach the relationship detox is because our patterns repeat themselves for our entire lives until you kind of figure out what your patterns are, and then how you can start doing things differently. But basically, you will date the same person 20 times in your life if you don't, well, maybe not 20 times, but however many. Some people have more, some people have 100, right? But you will continue to repeat the same patterns in relationships because your patterns are yours, and you will continue to attract and play out this sensation pattern that you're used to. Okay, so, and it usually starts in childhood somewhere, but you pick them up along the way based on your experiences. So one of the things that I see a lot is people, particularly in partnership, where one person has one pattern, the other person has the other pattern, and they mate very nicely, the patterns. Meaning that, like, okay, so you'll have somebody who's super attached, and that person is going to chase after one partner, and then the other partner is like one of the ones that run away, right? So they have a feeling of being smothered, and so they're going to attract someone who's going to smother them. And then the smotherer is the person that doesn't like being smothered is going to run, and the smotherer is going to be like, oh my God, they're withdrawing. And so they just play their parts perfectly in the pattern, and both people are actually addicted to, one is addicted to yearning, like I can't have it, right? And the other is like addicted to the smothering feeling, which totally does not make any sense if you think about it logically or rationally, or like, why would I do that? But we chase sensation. It's kind of the same concept behind comfort food. Like, what is comfort food? Why is it comfortable? A lot of times it's the stuff you ate when you were a kid. And maybe it's the stuff that you ate when you were a kid, and it made you feel safe, and it made you feel however it made you feel. Now, the other thing is that if you grew up with not so good patterns, right? Like, for instance, I knew someone whose mom used to feed him McDonald's when he was little, whenever he was upset. I mean, I don't even think you could do a worse thing for a kid than feed them fast food when they're upset, right? Because then every time they're upset, they're going to go for that thing that made them feel comfortable, okay? So the thing that I've seen in studying people is that what is comfortable is A, not necessarily what you want, and B, it's not necessarily good for you. So, and this is where addiction comes, like this is where the concept of addiction comes in, because it's anytime that you are acting out a behavior or creating things in your life that you don't necessarily want, like consciously, you're like, I don't want to be doing this and I don't know why I'm doing it. That's kind of the definition of addiction. So let's give another example. When I take people through the relationship detox, a lot of times people come in and they have a lot of very high sensation relationships. And high sensation relationships means that there are a lot of volatility, there's a lot of fighting, there might be really great sex, but there's a lot of passion and there's a lot of turmoil in general. So the turmoil might be defined as good or bad, but they are high sensation relationships. Okay. So then what happens when somebody goes through a relationship detox after they start seeing their patterns and they start seeing like, oh, I actually want to choose something different. What a relationship, a connected, healthy relationship feels really awkward to these people. It feels, and by the way, including me, like I can tell you that when I first met my husband, after I did all of my work to not be in high turmoil relationships, I had thoughts when I first met my husband of, I'm not sure there's enough friction in our relationship for this to be interesting. So if you ever have that feeling, that is a really, really good sign of that you are addicted to a kind of sensation in a relationship. Because ultimately, what happens is when you get caught in the sparky stuff, right? The constant fighting and actually, have you ever seen that Eminem Rihanna video? You know, like I'm gonna burn the house down, and you know, I just love the way you lie. Like that is addiction, like love addiction 101. Like just watch that video, listen to the song. Like that is like love addiction at its extreme. And so high sensation, right? Always got to have high sensation. What that means is that you're actually avoiding the intimacy and depth that's possible and available with another person and yourself, right? Because you're spending all this time firefighting. The example that I like to give is it's like swimming out in the breakers. Like if you're trying to go surfing, let's say you're trying to go surfing and you're spend all your time getting through the waves. Well, if you never like get past them, then you never actually get to surf because you're just stuck swimming in the waves. And that's unfortunately, because people come and talk to me about their relationships, this is where the world spends most of their energy in relationships. Intimacy is really hard. Intimacy is really hard because in order to be intimate with another person, you have to be intimate with yourself. And that means you have to feel pain. And it means that you have to be honest with yourself about who you are and what's going on in there. And a lot of people just don't want to look at that. And when you don't want to look at that, that's when we start using sensations and substances to avoid that. And yeah, right. So it's kind of heavy, but it's true. And I have to say that it's a life practice to do something differently when it comes to emotional, in my opinion, emotional sobriety. And emotional sobriety meaning like I'm not using interactions with other people and our relationship in order to distract me, in order to entertain me, or in order to give me some kind of sensation that like to avoid myself, basically. So if you have any questions about this video, please reach out to me. you can join one of my Facebook groups. I have a Facebook group called the Love Lounge, which I'll add the link to at the bottom. Feel free to join. I am very, very passionate about this because to me, the more that I have gotten conscious to my own patterns, and I've stopped using relationships in that way, because I did. I mean, I was addicted to relationships where like I could never have the person. Like there was just, because it's the ultimate avoidance of intimacy, truly, is like where you choose unavailable people so that like you can want them and you get addicted to the feeling of wanting, and then but then you never have to have them, so you never actually have to be intimate. And so I notice a lot of people do that, but that's just one of the patterns, right? And my personal life, I forget about like all the people that I work with. My life has changed enormously. How I show up in the world, my relationships with all people, not just romantic relationships. And I would say my quality of life, my happiness, is I've never been this happy. Like in the previous, like before I really dealt with this issue for myself, I would never have called myself a happy person. So I want to leave you with this. I think that if any of this resonates with you, you should consider doing my program, Relationship Detox. This is not meant to be a sales video. This is actually meant to be a discussion, and I'm very passionate about people having access to this work because I had to sort of create my own journey because I didn't really have a path that I felt solved this problem. And I've now worked with so many people to help them through this that I think I'm a pretty good guide. And so if this calls to you, like I want to help you, and you just have to reach out. But anyway, you don't have to take my course either. You can just follow my work, and I write about this stuff all the time and I talk about it, and you're welcome to join my free Facebook group, and I give away plenty of it for free. So that's what I want to leave you with today. And just think about that. Just start noticing. I think like the takeaway homework assignment is notice your interactions with people, and notice if you're trying to make it be a way, or you're always wanting a particular sensation with someone. Like, is there someone in your life that you act out a cycle with? And then notice, what is that? And then why do you do it? What's underneath it? What are you avoiding? What don't you want to feel? What don't you want to experience? And yeah, let me know what you think. Okay, have a great day.